Good day everyone, I'm Glendea Vic Beth Corres Asa. I'm with Miss Ria Lynn Balasabas and we are assigned to discuss with you the Module 1 topics 8 to 14. But before we start discussing the topics, let me share with you this thought from Gitika Pajuha. And I quote, "Children with special needs aren't sent to special teachers. They make teachers special." Most recently, focus on children with special needs has been heightened with the issuances from the Department of Education and the legislative branch of the government, stipulating the necessity of addressing the concerns of children with special needs. But how can we properly address these concerns? Basic knowledge about the nature of special needs, which I will briefly discuss with you, would be very helpful, especially to teachers who do not have special education as a field of specialization. The following information are the general and specific categories of students with special needs. These were found by different researchers and which have been summarized. Children with special needs may fall in one or more of these categories. First, those with specific cognitive or academic difficulties. Second, those with social or behavioral problems. Third, those with general delays in cognitive and social functioning. Fourth, those with physical or sensory challenges. Fifth, those with advanced cognitive development. The student can be taught in either a classroom or outside environment. Both environments can be interactive for the student to engage better with the subject. Different instructional techniques are used for some students with special educational needs. These are classified into two: accommodations or modifications. Accommodation is a reasonable adjustment to teaching practices so that the student learns the same material but in a format that is more accessible to the student. Accommodations may be classified by whether they change the presentation, response, setting, or scheduling of lessons. For example, the school may accommodate a student with visual impairments by providing a large print textbook. This is a presentation accommodation. Now let's have modification. Modification changes or adapts the material to make it simpler. Modifications may change what is learned, how difficult the material is, what level of mastery the student is expected to achieve, whether or how the student is assessed, or any other aspect of the curriculum. For example, the school may modify a reading assignment for a student with reading difficulties by substituting a shorter, easier book. A student may receive both accommodations and modifications. Now let us discuss further about the examples of two classifications of instructional strategies. First off, let us talk about the 6 examples of modifications. First, skipping subjects. Second, simplified assignments. Third, shorter assignments. Fourth, extra aids. Fifth, extended time. And lastly, students can be offered a flexible setting. Skipping subjects. Student may be taught less information than typical students, skipping over material that the school deems inappropriate for the student's abilities or less important than other subjects. For example, students with poor fine motor skills may be taught to print block letters, but not cursive handwriting. Simplified assignments. Students may read the same literature as their peers, but have a simpler version, such as Shakespeare with both the original text and a modern paraphrase available. Shorter assignments. Students may do shorter homework assignments or take shorter, more concentrated tests. Extra aids. If students have deficiencies in working memory, a list of vocabulary words, called a word bank, can be provided during tests to reduce lack of recall and increase chances of comprehension. Students might use a calculator when other students do not. Extended time. Students with a slower processing speed may benefit from extended time for assignments and tests in order to have more time to comprehend questions, recall information, and synthesize knowledge. Sixth, students can be offered a flexible setting in which to take tests. These settings can be a new location to provide for minimal distractions. Now we're done with the examples of modifications. Let us move on and discuss the 4 examples of accommodations. First, response accommodations, presentation accommodations, setting accommodations, and scheduling accommodations. Response accommodation allows students to complete assignments, assessments, and activities in different ways, or to solve or organize problems using some type of assistive device or organizer. For example, typing homework assignments rather than handwriting them, having someone else write down answers given verbally. Presentation accommodation, change how an assignment or assessment is given to a student. These include alternate modes of access, which may be auditory, multisensory, tactile, or visual. For example, include listening to audiobooks rather than reading printed books. Similar options include designating a person to read the student or providing text-to-speech software, designating a person to take notes during lectures, or using a talking calculator rather than one with only a visual display. Setting accommodation, change the location in which an assignment or assessment is given or the conditions of the setting. For example, making a test in a quieter room, moving the class to a room that is physically accessible, for instance, on the first floor of a building or near an elevator. Arranging seating assignments to benefit the student, like by sitting at the front of the classroom. Scheduling accommodation, increase the allowable length of time to complete an assignment or assessment, or change the way that time is organized for an assignment or assessment. For example, students may be given rest breaks or extended time in tests. Use a timer to help with time management. Thank you for listening. Now let's have Ms. Rialyn Balasabas to discuss the remaining topics.
Good day everyone, good day sir. I am Rialyn S. Balasabas and I will be discussing the global issues, the national approaches, the integrating technology in special education classrooms, and the social education and sports. So without further ado, let's get started.
Global issues. Children with disabilities are often denied their right to education. However, little is known about their school attendance patterns. The collection of data on children with disabilities is not straightforward, but data are vital to ensure that policies are in place to address the constraints their children face. Children with disabilities require access to services that can support them throughout their time in school, such as more individual attention from instructors. In the Global South, 90% of children with some form of disability do not receive any form of structured education, while current initiatives towards inclusive education internationally have been implemented, such as Education for All program. Some countries in the Global South still challenge the lack of ability to provide children with disabilities access to education due to issues such as lack of resources and schools being overcrowded. And children with physical disabilities are less likely to attend school in comparison with students who do not have a disability, and children with an intellectual ability are even less likely than children with physical abilities. So the next is the integrating technology in special education classrooms. Autism. Autism or Autism Spectrum Disorder, or ASD, refers to a range of conditions. These conditions involve challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech, and nonverbal communication. They also involve unique strengths and differences. Autism is known as disability that impair the social interactions and communication skills of a person. And also, people with autism might have problems with learning. Their skills might develop unevenly. For example,
They could have trouble communicating, but they are usually good at art, music, math, or memory. Because of this, they might do especially well on tests of analysis or problem solving. So this is the symptoms of level 3 autism. First is inability to use spoken language, extreme sensitivity, crowds, bright lights, loud noises are overwhelming, lower IQ, many repetitive behaviors like violent rocking and door slamming, and the physical symptoms like sleeplessness and epilepsy. Many children with autism spectrum disorder or ASD find themselves comfortable with a device in their hands. For students with autism, there are apps called visual scene displays that are most helpful for children who are having difficulty with verbal skills, according to Jules Seelig, a speech-language pathologist who focuses on special education technology. Down syndrome is a chromosomal condition that occurs when an error in cell division results in an extra chromosome 21. Down syndrome can affect a person's cognitive ability and physical growth, cause mild to moderate developmental issues, and present a higher risk of some health problems. Their brains have a late reaction when their neurological system sends a message for any task. Also, people with Down syndrome have a higher risk of some conditions including Alzheimer's disease and epilepsy. Down syndrome children tend to have shorter fingers and a lowered thumb, making their ability to write more difficult. Using any assistive technologies can help Down syndrome students during their educational process. Special education and sports. Benefits. Many people with special needs are denied when they want to participate in a sport. In the US, the Office of Civil Rights ensures students with disabilities always have opportunities to participate in extracurricular athletics equal to other students. Special education students can benefit from sports in many ways. For example, studies show it boosts self-confidence and improves the participants' skills in relationship building and working as part of a team. Next is the types of sports. Just about any sports can be altered for special education purposes. Some of the popular sports are swimming, wheelchair soccer, handball, gymnastics, and weightlifting. In the organizations and programs, many competitive organizations are available for special needs students athletes. For example, the Special Olympics is an annual worldwide competition held for children with disabilities that want to participate in the sports. Other organizations include the Paralympic Games and Unified Sports, the latter which pairs participants with and without intellectual disabilities on the same team. Educational institutions can also promote adapted physical education, which tailors sports for students with certain disabilities. Some sports even have their own organizations. For example, in baseball, athletes can participate in the Miracle League or Little League Challenger Division. Another organization that soccer athletes can participate in US Youth Soccer Top Scorer Soccer or Just for Kicks. Other sports which can be played or adapted include track and field, quad, rugby, tennis, bowling, and skiing.
Hi, it's me again, Glendea. Now we are going to discuss about the national approaches in different countries. Let us first discuss about the countries in Africa. South Africa. White papers in 1995 and 2001 discuss special education in the country. Local schools are given some independent authority. Both modifications and accommodations are recommended, depending on the student's individual needs. In Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Education constituted a committee to develop exclusively the first broad-based national policy on special needs education. This implies that the status has changed to a national policy on special education in 2015, thereby widening its scope and activities. Countries in Asia. First, we have China. China holds the largest system of education in the world and features a state-run public school system under the order of the Ministry of Education. Japan. Japanese students with special needs are placed in one of 4 different school arrangements: special schools, special classrooms with another school, in resource rooms, which are called chukyu, or in regular classrooms. Some local areas such as Koto Ward in Tokyo are expanding this chokki to cover all junior high schools within the next few years. Pakistan. At the first time in its report, the Commission on National Education highlighted the importance of special education. After that, the Education Policy and the National Policy and Implementation Program gave some importance to this sector. Recently, Government of Pakistan has launched a new national policy for persons with disabilities in 2002, which is dynamically being implemented. Singapore. Special education is regulated centrally by the Singapore Ministry of Education. Both special schools and integration into mainstream schools are options for students with special educational needs, but most students with disabilities are placed in special schools. Australia. Australian Association of Special Education Inc.'s position is informed by Disability Standards for Education 2005, which require that students with disabilities are treated on the same basis as other students in regards to enrollment and participation in education. Europe. Each country in Europe has its own special education support structures. 28 European countries are covered by the European Agency for Special Needs and Inclusive Education. The Czech Republic. Schools must take students' special education needs into account when assessing their achievements. Students with disabilities are normally included in their neighborhood school, although may be placed in special schools. Denmark. In Denmark, 99% students of specific learning difficulties like dyslexia are educated alongside students without any learning challenges. Finland. Schools adapt the national guidelines to the needs of individual students. Students with special educational needs are given an individualized plan. France. French students with disabilities are normally included in their neighborhood school, although children may be placed in special schools if their personalized plan calls for it. Each student's personalized school plan describes teaching methods, psychological, medical, and paramedical services that a school will provide to the student. Germany. Most students with special needs in Germany attend a special school that serves only children with special needs. They have approximately 12 special schools that are designated to facilitate children with special needs. This includes special school for learning disabilities, school for cognitive development, school for emotional and social development, and more. Greece. Greek students with special needs may attend either mainstream schools or special schools. Students whose disabilities have been certified may be exempted from some standardized tests or given alternative tests. Hungary. Special education is regulated centrally. According to the 1993 Act on Public Education, students with special educational needs may be exempted from standardized tests or given modified tests. As of 2006, students with disabilities received a significant bonus, which is 8 points, on the university entrance examination, which has been criticized as unfair. Republic of Ireland. The National Council for Special Education supports students with physical and intellectual disabilities. That's all for me. Now let us give our attention to Ms. Rialyn Balasabas.
Rule. Students with special educational needs are integrated into their regular mainstream schools with appropriate support. Under the Going to School Together policy, where some in our school, 4 types of disability-specific special school exist. The national policy is moving towards
suitable education, pasend o under which, based on the individual strengths and weaknesses. And also, the Netherlands have a strong emphasis is placed on the specific needs and positive capabilities of the individual rather than on limitations, and disabilities are normally documented by the experts on the Netherlands. The National Support System for Special Needs Education, or the StatPed, is managed by the Norwegian Directorate for Education and Training. The general objective for StatPed is to give guidance and support of the education in municipalities and county administration to ensure that children, young people, and adults with major and special educational needs are secured well-advised educational and developmental provisions. And Norway, these centers offers special educational guidance and support for local authorities and county administrations. Students with disabilities have a guaranteed right to appropriate accommodations on assessments. Schools are generally considered autonomous. Slovenia. On national tests, the National Examination Center normally grants most requests for accommodations that are supportedly by the local school's examinations committee. Legislation opposes the use of modifications that would be unfair to non-disabled students required to provide services and resources to students with special educational needs so that they make progress and participate in school. If the local school is unable to provide appropriately for an individual student, then the student may be transferred to a special school. Spanish non-governmental organizations like ONCE or the ones have traditional education is controlled by the 26 cantons, and so special education programs vary from place to place. However, integration is typical. Students are assessed according to their individual learning goals. United Kingdom. In England and Wales, the acronym SEN for Special Educational Needs denotes the condition of having special educational needs, the services which provide the support, and the programs and staff which implement the education. At a young age, students who have special needs in Turkey are provided special education from the Ministry of Education, who are responsible in giving them the education that they need. In order to get special education, you're required to certain things. Certificate, written application by the parents to the school administration, personal development report of the child if already registered, child's health report from the hospital. In North America, special education is commonly abbreviated as special ed, spec ed, SPE ed, or SPED in a professional context. Education in Canada is the responsibility of the individual provinces and territories. As such, rules vary somewhat from place to place. However, inclusion is the dominant model. Canadian schools commonly use accommodations such as specially printed examinations for students with visual impairments when assessing the achievements of students with special needs. States. All special needs students receive an individualized education program, or the IEP, that outlines how the school will meet the students' individual needs. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or the IDEA, requires that students with special needs be provided with a free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment that is appropriate to the student's needs.